talk about products and services that have really just defeated the opposition using vision, using a feeling, you can't go much further than Apple. 2023, they globally they took more market share. But if you think about Western countries, the US, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Apple is completely dominated, and it's simply because they sell a vision, they sell a feeling more than they sell features. As every single Android, Samsung person will enthusiastically tell you that their camera is better, their screen refresh is better, that all their features in every Samsung phone is just better. But you know what? Apple is outselling them. And the reason is because they sell a feeling, they sell a vision. So what I want to do today is make sure that you can join your ideas, your product with that future vision. And I'm just going to give you some tools, some ideas. And at the end of it, I'm going to offer you one or two bonuses that might help you really solidify those things together. I've got some templates for you throughout the presentation as well. So very, very quickly, the uncomfortable truth. Thank you, AI, for building this for me. Good old, what are some products that actually had a better set of features that actually just got defeated at the end of the day? And I don't know how old all of you are. I know some of you are. I can see you here. Is that you might remember the Zune versus the iPod. Zune was better, faster, more higher, better technology, more songs, all of that sort of stuff. Steve said 1,000 songs in your pocket. And even Simon Sinek, who's the person that talks about know your why. And if you don't know who Simon Sinek is and you haven't seen that talk, please write that down in your notebook you've got today. Start with why. It's a video that was recorded probably 15 years ago, really long time ago. Really great talk, about 15, 20 minutes about understanding your why and then building out from there. When I was actually working with a client, providing some advice, they weren't an ideal client for me. So when clients aren't an ideal client for me, I switched straight into how can Matthew help the most mode. And I took them through, I guess, thinking about what their North Star is. What's their vision of their company? Because they're in that AI space. It's incredibly fast moving, lots of stuff going on. And, they said, oh, we can't really go to market until we've got this feature developed. And my conversation with him is really, let's talk about your vision, where do you want to achieve, what do you want to have happen throughout the process, and in doing that, then you can actually where can I find anything? Just go to Google, Andrew. Go to Google. So by the way, if you've not attended one of my webinars before, I love a bit of chaos. And chaos, I mean, I will answer questions live and interrupt myself just to make sure that you get the highest level of value through this conversation. So Andrew, Google. Simon Sinek, understand your why. It's really, really good. Okay, so it's about developing and understanding where you're going. And so when I was talking with that client, it's really about what's your North Star, what's the vision of the organization? Because once you develop and appreciate the vision, the problem you're going to solve, then the technology, the services, the people, and everything else can fit in behind it. So that's becoming from feature focus, which is a lot of technology people are, and turning it to a customer-centric focus. So you figure out the customer outcome that they really want, then you build the software and technology. And the software and technology can move constantly, but the vision stays the same. So we know that the Zune, whoever's old enough to remember those ones. We've also got, once again, how old is everybody here? MySpace and Facebook. MySpace was actually cool, way better. You could put your own music on there. You completely design it yourself. You could do a lot more than what you could with Facebook. But Facebook came along and they wanted to connect the world, and they actually they took the features from 100 to like 4. They really squeezed it down. They beat them just by having a better, clear, and more clarity on vision. Of course, Betamax and VHS, really showing my age here. Much better quality, and anybody who had a Betamax, they're probably the same people that today have got a Samsung phone. Like, the feature's the most important thing, but in reality, the money flows towards where the vision is, and they were broader consumer acceptance, longer run times, more features. Not more features, but more customer acceptance, because they really wanted to get that into the public's hand. And the last one is something that just makes me smile every now and then that I think about it. If you were a betting person, you were back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you said, well, on one hand, you've got one of the world's biggest companies with the world's most amount of money building and developing an online CD based at the time, online CD and or CD based encyclopedia of the world versus an open source encyclopedia that anybody can contribute to. You couldn't possibly imagine that the free one is going to still be around in 25 years and the paid one is not. So it absolutely, I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. This new platform makes me admit everybody individually. So that's a great feature. So we would need to make sure that we're, and Encarta certainly had more features than Wikipedia back in the day. Lots of interactive video, well-researched, high quality, professionally written, and they just got defeated by somebody with a bigger and broader vision. So hopefully I made my point. Think about your North Star. So the first takeaway today is how do you want, what's the customer problem, then work backwards from there. I know I've got a couple of customers already in the room today who have that exact way of thinking, is how do I, what's the customer vision, what's the customer outcome they really deeply desire, and work backwards from there. So who's this webinar for? So first of all, heads of software and technology companies who need to cut through the noise, generate leads, and close more deals. That's really very simple. We'll be talking today about 3 key areas of impact, which is why your vision is important, why storytelling in your business. So to actually be able to articulate your vision, you need to do that through storytelling. And it's not just, we want you to win. We need to tell a story, take people on that story arc. And I'll be talking about story arcs as well later on in the webinar. And the third part there is how to create your own story. You might be a feature-focused person, but what I really want you to do is I want you to think about what value you bring. So how do you create your own story, what your journey was to go from where you are today to the solution and the value you've delivered for clients. And of course, once you understand how to create your own story, you can create customer stories. And in doing that, you can go ahead and drive real customer engagement. So quick intros, who am I? So first of all, my name is Matthew. Started my first tech business when I was 22, always been the salesperson and working with amazing marketing people. Over those years, I've had grown my software and technology businesses to about 70 people around Australia, New Zealand, and over in Asia. What I've been doing for the last 8 years is consulting to software and technology businesses, helping them scale their sales organizations. And in the last couple of years, I created a marketing business to support that sales side, simply because the marketers that were in the space just weren't equipped with the vocabulary and the deep understanding of technology to be able to take a typically dry, or not necessarily boring, but dry topic of data warehouses or ERPs or whatever it might be, whatever you're selling, and bringing that to life to make it actually be engaging for customers to interact with. So what I'd love to do is understand where you are and what you do. So just find that Q&A box or the chat box. I think let's use Q&A, please, so that if I don't have to switch between multiple areas, and we can go from there. And what I want you to know, because what I'll then do is during this our conversation is I might bring in what you sell and how we can actually weave that into a compelling vision and story for you. So when you've got a chance, find that button. I think it might be down the bottom left-hand side, but this is a new platform. It could be anywhere for you. Might even be on the sorry, I think it might be on the right. My arrow goes left. If you can't figure it out, then we'll carry on. So what do clients say? So the reason I'm saying this is, once again, it brings back to that point of this client here saying that, we're engineers, not marketers. It was fascinating to see your team turn our spec sheets into eye-catching website and collateral that actually say what we do. Many, many times when I've gone through the process of delivering what we call a roadmap, clients have been able, they get this big silly grin on their face and go, that's us, that's what we do, that's who we are. And by doing that, you're able to, by articulating that value, then the client and everybody can understand what you do, share that with your team, and everybody goes, I get it. We don't just build SQL databases, we do all of this other stuff, which is actually client focused. We turn those spec sheets and documents and turn them into really high value pieces of information. So, and of course, when it actually comes to delivering value, we want to make sure that there's a high amount of, interaction there, and we want to make sure the clients win. Our value is having businesses generate more leads and close more sales. And then what we do is we line up, very similar to what you would do, is we line up the services and the people and the technology behind it to deliver that to clients. More people want to join. Right. And so what most sales pitches do and sound like, I've obviously used ChatGPT to do this. And the problem with this is that it has no heart and no soul. Looking for a reliable partner to build your custom software solution, look no further than our expert team of developers. Like, there's no story there. There's no heart. There's no values exchange. There's no vision in these types of comments. So AI is amazing. I use it every single day. There's so much you can do with it, but it still doesn't replace the human that's there. AI is the, I guess, the invention of the tractor. It used to take 50 people. Used to take 50 people to do something. Now it takes one person to actually till a field. I need to get better with my terminology when it comes to farming. I have watched Clarkson's Farm, so I need to get better at that, but that's really not really a good study guide. ChatGPT. So Andrew just asking what I think is better, Copilot or ChatGPT. ChatGPT 4.0. I actually pay the money for that. I use Copilot, and I'll take the same prompt and stick it in Copilot, stick it in ChatGPT. ChatGPT wins. So there you go. So what I want you to do, and by the way, this is an older version of ChatGPT. I've just used that. $20 a month, Andrew, is how much ChatGPT is. All right, so let's carry on. Now, one of my favorite YouTubers, I make myself sound like a teenager, but Casey Neistat, he's my age anyway. He's been telling stories for a long time, and what he did is he typed into ChatGPT, write me a script for my daily vlog. He did that, and what it came back with, he actually said, this is the worst video I've ever made. It sucked because it had no humanity, no depth, and no soul. And that's really how most technology people want to talk about their feeds and speeds. It goes at 23 gigahertz. So what? What problem does that solve? And I was onboarding a new client just yesterday, and they would tell me that the customer wanted reports. Cool. Why do they want reports? What was the problem that you're solving that your reports gave them, that your reports solved for them? And it took quite a while. They're able to connect data. So that's a tactic, not a strategy. But we gave them visibility. Cool. That's a thing you've done. What does the customer want? And so it actually took 3 or 4 ways of asking the question, approaching it from different angles until they went, there was inventory overruns, lateness of inventory, and stock management issues. So what was the problem then? They were burning money on inventory they didn't need. Got it. So then we started to weave those problems together into a point where the customer was getting a massive amount of value, because really, if you solve the problem using the most brilliant AI-powered, technically connected, bespoke piece of software in the world, or you solve the problem with what I said yesterday is if there was a guy in a clown suit doing a jig and they still solve the problem, then really the customer doesn't care. So telling a customer about more features isn't irrelevant as long as you're solving the problem. So with my customers, once again, I could drive the most amount of traffic, have the best Facebook campaign, the best Google campaign, the most clever content, and drive a number of leads to them, but and sales. But if we hired somebody, put them on the side of the M1 motorway with a wobble board and got more leads and sales because people would see that and they go, I'm having it. Well, then they don't care. So all the technically clever and creative things that I can do, if we just stuck a person out there in a bikini waving a sign, and it gets the deals, that's irrelevant. So you've got to keep the customer in your front of your mind. Your technology is, and I'm sorry to say, is almost irrelevant. Almost. It's pretty important, but it's almost irrelevant. So why is storytelling so important? Because it's baked deep into our soul. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been talking about the future of what we want to do with our cave or our business or our whatever it might be. It's baked deep, and in that, we know that, and so, for however many years, whoever you listen to, however long the human species has been around, depends on what scientists you want to listen to, but let's say 10,000 years since the last ice age, we've only been writing for a few thousand, maybe 5 or 6. Before that, we still had to tell stories. We still had to provide warnings. We still had to create some type of narrative for our tribe to stay together. We've done that through storytelling. We've done that through, and medicine and all of those things that keep us alive as a species has evolved, and that's all come through storytelling. Then we can start writing stuff down. So let's now talk to, does storytelling actually make money other than in Hollywood or those sort of places? Well, Formula One, you wouldn't think there'd be much use for stories in Formula One. They're a bunch of super rich guys spinning around the track, and funded by even more rich guys and girls. Well, the fact of the matter is, in 2018, Netflix decided to run a TV show called Drive to Survive. They had no access to, I know it's highlighted here, I'll give you the short version, no access to Mercedes or Ferrari, no access to the stars of the show. People, they were regaled to talking about the lives and the struggles of the individuals. We started to care about Claire Williams, who's in charge of the racing team. We cared about her. We cared about Charles Leclerc. So with that, what happened? Very quickly over the first couple of seasons, Formula One became another, and it regrew its value in the world. People from McLaren are saying it's the most important thing that's happened to Formula One ever because of the story. And they didn't even get the main people. The story, if you ever watch Drive to Survive, and I'd certainly recommend it because it's a beautiful, every single episode is a perfect story arc. Current status, conflict, resolution, every single time. And I'll talk more about how to construct that later on in our conversation today. It's so powerful. Did it happen again? Well, they just did it with golf. And they're going to continue to find, and they did it with golf, the second and third rate players. They didn't do it about Tiger. They didn't do it about the top of the tree. They did it about the 10th ranked people and below. Once again, what has ratings done to golf, watching golf? Gone through the roof. So what is your vision? So these are the stories that you can use. Hopefully that sort of convinced you that you need to start building vision and story into your sales process. So why you started the business? When I was selling, when I worked for a company selling enterprise data warehouses, I would start and I would sit down with mining engineers, pretty serious people with serious intent, and they were looking at the various products that were out there. I would always start the conversation with how we got here, where the directors were, who they worked for, why they worked for them, what happened, how did they leave that organization, how are they rehired back to solve the problem that they were solving before they left, why did they, how did it all come apart, come together, come to pass, and then how we got to today, and why now that they're the biggest provider of enterprise data warehouses for the biggest mining company in the world. So that's a key story. Then people go, well, they taught so many things. Understand they're part of the same group. Understand they went through some issues. Understand they solved those issues, and now they've got an end result. And exactly the same thing can be done for every one of you in this conversation. Think about why you started the business, not the fact that you've got a business, but why you started. What problem are you solving? Keep that as your North Star. Successful client stories, and of course your vision and in the future. Where do you want to go? And you want to bring people along with you. One of the very first things I do in most sales conversations with new clients is I say, what are the characteristics of your best customers? And they tell me things like name, rank, and serial number. It's not important. What's important is how those customers act. By identifying how customers act, then we can start bringing that into the sales conversation. So, for example, my best clients are people that have a great product, they know how to deliver it, and now it's time to put the foot down on the front end of their business. So it talks about what you've got and where you want to go. Whereas the customer I was just talking with yesterday, they were talking about, well, their customers value. They've created a series of values around growing the business, and they do that through data, and they do that through providing people who are in charge of that and a budget to it. So by understanding that, not the whole world is your oyster. You've got a certain group of people who have a certain some line-up values of you or with you, and in doing that, then you can immediately talk to those clients. And of course, by creating those aspirational statements, you're able to communicate with clients far more effectively. So stories, of course, could be after the sale, how people overcome challenges, and of course, client spotlights. So where do you start? What's your story? Well, let me talk about the anatomy of a story. You're technical people. We want to break that down. We want to give you some, I'll talk about that in a second, and client spotlight. Well, obviously spotlighting your wins with clients. I've got a slide about that later. So what's the anatomy of a story? The anatomy of a story is, well, why do we, every single time we have a new Spider-Man movie, do we need to see Peter as a nerdy teenager who then goes through some problems, gets bitten by a spider, and then has the villain shows up and then defeats the villain? Well, it's called the 3-act story structure: setup, confrontation, resolution. Watch Drive to Survive. You'll see setup, current status. Confrontation, will he win? Will he be able to get into the top 5, top 10? Will he be able to get points? Will the Constructors' Championship, will he be able to enter the Constructors' Championship or the Drivers' Championship, whatever it might be? And then there's some type of resolution. So you actually watch each one of those episodes and you'll see it. Once you identify that it's setup, confrontation, and resolution, you'll see the story arc every single time. And that is exactly what you should be looking at with your existing sales and marketing conversations: is setup, current status understanding, confrontation, this is what we went through, and resolution. Continue to please use those that structure when communicating with clients. Template time. Love a good template in my business. I follow them all the time because I use sales scripts. I use templates. And the reason is because I want it to be the best it could possibly be every single time. It is my duty as a sales and marketing person to show up in the best possible format every single time. And the only way I could possibly do that, I might have had less sleep, had a crummy conversation with the customer just now, had a bit of a vent, dogs outside barking. I've got to switch on to actually be able to serve my clients at the highest possible level. And you do that by having the discipline to use a script, structure, not a word for word script, but a structure, and templates. Talking with another client 2 days ago, speaking with her, their head of marketing. So we're helping with them. We manage their process. We don't necessarily do all their marketing. We manage their internal resources for them. And I then shared all of my templates with them because they were having some challenges with one of their clients who kept changing the field, who was arguing about certain things. You fill out a template in front of the client, and you do that with the client, you get that agreement, and then you're actually going to have a much easier way of implementation because you've got those agreements early on. It's much easier to argue about stuff when the stakes are low and nothing's been built yet, no code has been cut yet. But as soon as you find yourself in a situation where code's being cut, we're heading in a certain direction, and the client goes, no, we didn't say that. Well, then you've got issues and change requests and time and pain, and everybody's doesn't like it anymore. So here we go. Here's how you build a story. Industry problems you saw. What was the problem you saw? How are they solved now? Spreadsheets. Good old Excel is there's a lot of Excel out there in the world. And then maybe. And how they fell short. One of my clients who's on the line today, some of their clients talk about they're having a dozen different systems to run, whereas their system absorbs all of those. How they're being solved. A dozen different separate systems are going to move data around. They got $1,000 a month subscription to bloody Zapier or something. So we've got lots of those types of things. How they fell short. We've got what was the problem with having those dozen systems or spreadsheets or check boxes, whatever it might be. The process that you went through, the roadblocks along the way, and then your solution. Build that out. If you'd like help filling that out, have a conversation with me. Book a call. I'm more than happy to have that conversation, help you build that story. Take your reader on a journey. And when I say reader, I mean people who read your content. So each piece of content is your opportunity to develop a story. Conflict, status, conflict resolution, or set up conflict resolution. Ask for your clients. If you don't have a great story, start talking to clients. I spoke to a client on behalf of one of my clients, and their story was amazing. They talked about a whole range of things, how they really went through, they were in a massive amount of pain. They then helped develop the system and then delivered on it. And it was quite, I got off the call and went, holy crap, we need to sell more of those. it's inspiring, and I'm the one doing the marketing. You can engage somebody who's in that space, who's currently burning tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can show them a way they can save that money, save that time, save those grays and that hair loss. Well, then you're really going to be able to strike a chord with those particular clients, and you want to make sure it's clear and specific to that particular niche. The more narrow you are, the better it's going to be. So talk to your clients, and so the action here is make a list of 3 to 5 clients and call them today. Generate a short list of questions, and what I want you to do is, when generating questions, it's not how you're going and what's it like and what do you want next. That's fine, but remember, you want to be able to attract people pre that journey. So you want to communicate with your clients and talk to them about the situation it was before they bought from you. What were the 3 or 4 things that motivated them to engage and think about actually developing a solution like this, or buying a solution like this? What were the process? What were the hardships you went through during that process? Setup, conflict. What was the process? Why was it painful? How did you get here? And then resolution. You've now got a great product and service, and you'll never look back. So those are the things. And if just ask, need I say more? Are there more? As I said, it's not supposed to be an Apple fanboy reunion, but really, there's Apple do an amazing job of selling a Vision. Yes, it's called the Vision Pro. No pun intended, honestly. But this is the most recent version of that. They had created hysteria, lineups, people paying 7 times more than the current market leader. So Meta had the Meta thing out there. Apple came along and said, we're going to sell a thing that does these things 7 times more expensive. People lined up, lots of cheering. Hooray, we got one. Is it better? Marginally. Is it 7 times better? Probably not. But these people felt very good about the whole thing. And you can just tell this guy's got the Apple Watch, the phone's in his pocket, and this is the moment he waited for. He wanted to be cheered on. So that's about selling vision, about selling future. And you can do that right in your small business. Right now, you can think about how do you want your customers to feel about the whole thing. So tell your client stories. Couple of client stories. I can see some clients in here. They're going to recognize something in a moment. Your client stories. By delivering really high value leads, this client at the moment has generated 155 leads this month with an average price of $13.29. That's a win for them, because that was their problem. They had less leads. They wanted to generate leads. And by generating and building a really successful advertising campaign, they're able to go ahead and drive significant return on advertising spend. Another client just launched a new product where you can go ahead and type in a very basic brief and outline of what your product, what app you want to build, and they will actually go ahead and use AI to build that whole thing. And of course, we've got this particular client helped double their client's business, raise their weekly bookings with actually having no change in staff. That type of information, that specific information, has turned that sentence has helped that client secure conversations and engagements with more clients of the same style. You can also draw from your own life. I think I just saw a question come through. Whoops, what is there? Any thoughts on how to sell and present your product in its vision phase? So I'm going to assume pre-revenue. Well, it's all vision. I think that's what you're trying to say, Doctor. So if you are pre-revenue or pre-product and you're building something, that is the most important time to sell vision. Why are you here? What's your raison d'etre? Why do you actually exist? So once we know that, and you can engage other people in that process. Actually, I spoke with a VC last night. They're in Belgium, I think it was, and it was a late night for me last night. And they are introducing one of my clients to another VC because they're in a particular industry. And here's my notes from that conversation. And because I like to get other people's opinion about stuff. Hopefully, I'm talking about the right thing, Doctor. Mr. Burrell. I'm not going to try to say your name. I'll get it wrong. But I think hopefully you know who I'm talking about. And this is the process, exactly what he said This is what the VC and the guy in Belgium said for my client to talk to this particular VC. And it says, starts with story, then problem, then way of doing. So what was happening right now? Then they built an MVP and then what was the gap? Then potential market. Like we're talking 20 minutes into the conversation before we talk about potential market. Who are they going to sell to? And then de-risk it. So one of the de-risking comments that I asked my client to say when they talk to the investor later on in the week is the de-risking is the sentence will be some version of, if I only ever sell to my existing clients this product, we've got an incredibly profitable business. Talk about massive levels of de-risking, right? Because their person's already they're out in the field. They're the man in the arena, so to speak. They're the ones who are actually doing the work. He's seen a problem. He's solving a problem. He's built an MVP. He's sold that MVP, received money by building an MVP. Now it's being rebuilt and platformed in a commercial, scalable, multi-tenanted, all those good buzzwordy sort of things environment. But that's tough. You start with story. That's the way you start. Okay. Draw from your own life. I went on an adventure with my best mate, drove a rickshaw over the Himalayan mountains with we hadn't organized any food, water, accommodations, literally a 10 horsepower lawnmower. I drove that through the snow, over mountains, all that type of stuff. So then I just figured out a way to align those lessons. What did I figure out during that? Align those lessons with business. I think we all probably, a lot of us saw last week or the week before a chap who on LinkedIn said, I proposed to my wife on the beach today, and here's what I learned about B2B selling. And of course, he got absolutely owned or lots of attention got on that. But you know what? I think something like 10,000 comments. Guy had no reach at all, put this piece of content out. What's interesting is they started off mocking him, but then you start reading the comments, he got a lot of connections, a lot of people going, yeah, I agree. And that person generated a massive amount of engagement and his business has exploded. So find way, and so he told a story of how he, was dating and then became engaged, and the process of that, situation, conflict, and resolution. And he drew that back to his B2B sales business, and he's the rest is history. So draw lessons from your own life, please. So we can also use stories to define your perfect target customer. I've already spoken about that. Our best fit customers are not name, rank, and serial number, not, mining companies with more than 10,000 employees. That's fine. That's something you can find on LinkedIn. But how do they act? How do they do that? What do they value? Tell the story of your perfect customer. What makes them perfect? If you were to be asked today to define your perfect customer without the use of industry, job title, or business or size, what would you say? So, and I'm pausing for like a response, but obviously I'm not going to get one, but you get my point. What would you say of your perfect target customer? What are they? And I know, and I've got clients here online here today, I know your biggest customers are probably not your perfect customers. So we need to make sure that when we're going out there and growing and identifying customers we want to sell to, we identify them as perfect or high or best fit for your problems you solve, because then the money will flow. People don't buy the best products, they buy the products they feel good about. And of course, we want to focus on the journey. How do we get there, not the tech specs? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this new experimental platform. That's really the webinar I wanted to share with you today. Hopefully you got some value. If you've got any questions, please do so in the Q&A or the chat box. So let's jump in, have that if there's any questions at this stage. There is a bonus that I've got for you. If any of you today want to, my pleasure, Sean. If any of you today want to join me for a 45-minute Focus Finder workshop, let's find out a way to tell your story. Let's think about your sales process. Let's think about the way that you approach the market. And in doing that, I can share some successful campaigns and templates with you, and the cost is free. So if you do want to go ahead and join me for a 45-minute conversation one-on-one, please just reply to the email that we sent you, and or find me on LinkedIn. More than happy to have that organized. Andrew, I'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon. Sounds great. I know who you are. I can email you. No problem at all. It'll have to be before 3 o'clock. Before 4 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing else, remember that every single sales conversation is an opportunity for a story, because actually they're interesting. Your feeds and speeds are somewhat interesting. I know you focus a lot on it, but in reality, the value lives in the story and your journey of how you got here. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate your time today. All the best. Bye for now.